All right, so it was a massive weekend of racing on all coasts, but mostly at Aqueduct and Keeneland to prep for the Breeders' Cup. Breeders' Cup fields are pretty much all set. The pre-entries should be out in about 2 weeks or so, and we'll obviously have much more Breeders' Cup content and previews and discussion as the weeks go forward. But let's talk about the races over the weekend. There were big ones in pretty much every single division. There's lots to discuss. I guess we'll start with the home team report. Just get it out of the way early. John putting his thumbs up because he knows that everybody comes to hear us talk about us and what we're self-interested in. We'll start with the one Breeders' Cup ticket that was punched between West Point and DJ over the weekend, and that was Intricate Spirit, who won the Futurity on Friday at Aqueduct. And again, not to make it all about me, but I hadn't been in a winner's circle photo since Sandman and the Arkansas Derby. That's almost 6 months. And, I don't want this to be a sob story, but in all seriousness, like when you're in the position that I'm in and you're going to the races and you're traveling a bunch and you got a bunch of partners with you all the time and they're really excited and then the horse doesn't win, they look to you for an explanation. Like right. It's all relative. So I don't want to complain like I work in a sweatshop, but it is the hardest part of the job to kind of manage that disappointment. You put a lot into it, a lot of emotion, a lot of energy, a lot of miles into getting to these races. And then when they just don't win, it wears on you. And so it was a very, very satisfying win on Friday with Intricate Spirit. He ran great. He got taken to by the Wesley Ward horse for the first quarter of a mile, but he and Joel Rosario were able to settle back a little bit off of that pace after that and come get him in the stretch. And just a super, super nice 2-year-old colt by Complexity, whose horses, again, seem to all be able to run. So he'll go to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Congratulations to the partners. And Miguel Clement as well, who also punched another ticket that same day with Bodas in the Pilgrim. So he's already got 2 runners for those turf races on Breeders' Cup Friday. Probably will have a couple others by the time it's all said and done. So that was super exciting. Curtain call in the Champagne, not as much. It was a weird race, John, in the Champagne. Like they went super, they went super fast early and just nobody really closed at all. And, shout out to Chad Summers and Napoleon Solo, because that was a really, really impressive performance. Joel Rosario again. But I just felt like nobody else really ran in there, including Curtain Call. It was a very fast track. They ran 107-4 for 3 quarters, which was just, when's the last time you saw that in an Aqueduct dirt race? For 2-year-olds. Especially going a mile.
Yeah, for 2-year-olds.
So that was, So that was a little bit of a confusing race. Curtain calls all good back at the barn. We'll give them a little bit of a break and figure out what's next over the winter. Obviously not going to go to the Breeders' Cup off of that. It was a bummer, the Ewing scratch on Saturday. That was a real dagger. I'll let John talk more about that and about nitrogen. But yeah, that's bad timing. Had a knee chip, in case you haven't heard. He needs probably like 60 to 90 days. Hopefully we can get him back for like January, February at Gulfstream. Still have a really big 3-year-old campaign. Maybe get on the Derby trail with him. Right. But obviously that's the lows of the industry are pretty low, and we had already had a bunch of people travel down to Keeneland for that race, and so it's obviously majorly disappointing. But good thing is it's not career ending, and he'll be okay long term. John, you can talk about that. You can talk about nitrogen. Anything else that stood out to you about the weekend?
Well, I think the most impressive race for me as an outsider watching all these big grade 1, grade 2 winning your in races was actually that Champagne. Napoleon Solo, to me, just took the race by the horns. And Joe, when they went 22-2, 44-1, this son of Liam's Map was cooking on the front end. Then 107-4, and I actually turned to my dad and said, there's no way he can carry this any further. I mean, it's just that's asking so much. And then he rattled off, a 13-second, eighth, and just kept right on going. He was slowing down at the end, but he was up by about 7 lengths on the rest of the field. And to me, that was the most impressive visual race of the weekend. Ran a 94 buyer and stretching out from 6 furlongs to 8 furlongs. And, Joe, we talk about all these expensive horses that get bought and sold in the course of the auctions. This was a modest, some would say a bargain at $40,000 yearling. $40,000 son of Liam's Map, who stands for 40,000. So, kudos to Gold Square and Chad Summers for picking the horse out. He's now undefeated in 2 races, both by widening margins. It looks like he's ready to step up and take on the big boys in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So to me, that was an impressive gate-to-wire race visually, and I know you guys had Curtain Call in there, and it was certainly, I'm sure you were a little disappointed, but just the fact that you had all these horses running in these preps and in these winning or ins is, a feather in the program's hats, respectively. Yeah, it was a bummer with Ewing. And look, we probably could have run Ewing and, had him go up against the big horses in that race. And, it just would have been the wrong thing. And one thing that if you've heard this 1,000 times on our show, you're going to hear it again. And that is, we always take care of the horse first. And Mark didn't even give us an option. He was basically like, look, this is the right thing to do for the horse. We're not going to run him. We're going to take the knee chip out. It's in a great spot. Excellent prognosis. As a matter of fact, the horse actually shipped down to Ocala, and you can see a picture of him there, happy in his stall. And, basically, Joe, what he's going to do is he's going to have the chip removed. He's going to rehab on Cassie's farm. He'll equisize, his hand walk equisize. So he'll be actually in the pool swimming and building up his cardiovascular system again. And like you said, it's going to be just a matter of weeks because it's such an easy surgery. Matter of weeks before he's back on the track with riders on, atop him. And he's either going to go to Gulfstream, like you mentioned, or he may even do the Sandman route and go to Oaklawn and try to hit the Smarty Jones all the way up to the Arkansas Derby if he's good enough and if he can handle it. But it should not be any kind of an issue whatsoever. It was just a bummer because we were all we flew down to Kentucky as well and basically had kind of a time on our hands down there, which we were able to go see and, see some of our other horses, which was great. But I get it. Like, I don't have investors and partners to the extent, obviously, that you guys do. But it's a bummer. Even when people, text me and say, hey, what happened? It's like a gut punch every time, you have to answer that. And I'm appreciative that people care and people want to know about how the horses are doing and how our stock is running. But yeah, it does take a little bit out of you. For me, it's kind of like a, death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's like, oh, I got to answer this again. Oh, I got to answer it again. But anyway, I digress. The nice thing about it is he's a nice horse. We're doing the right thing for him, and we still have Derby expectations for him. Let me shift a little bit to what I thought was an exciting race, albeit another heartbreaker, for us and in the Spinster. And, when we sat down with Jose Ortiz before the race, Mark does not give any kind of instructions other than occasionally if a horse has a bad habit or has something that the jockey should be aware of for safety purposes. Otherwise, he usually says, good luck and be safe. For this race, Jose actually came to Mark and said, hey, one thing that I've watched all 5 horses in the race, I've watched all their races on video, and I think that the 2 is going to go out there and try to go gate to wire. I'm going to sit right off of Torpedo Anna and basically not let her get the jump on us. And we were in the 3 hole. The Grizzly Bear was in the 5 hole. So if you watch the beginning of the race, what Jose actually did was he pulled Nitrogen back a little bit and allowed Torpedo Anna to go up and get in front of us so he could kind of latch onto her and be a half a length and be pressuring her the entire, first half of the race. Now, whether that was the reason why Torpedo Anna didn't finish or not, I doubt. I think that maybe just in her mind, as we've talked about time and time again, fillies kind of spit it after a certain, shelf life. They want to be mommies. And I think that's probably a Torpedo Anna's time right now, if you look at her last 3 or 4 races. That being said, none of us expected Jin to go right to the front and keep going. And I think we won the battle, but kind of lost the war in the sense that we were ahead of Torpedo Anna, the favorite at the top of the stretch. I went from thinking we were going to win to not win to in the last 3 jumps thinking that we might have won it. That's how my heart was beating out of my chest so much. Lost by in a photo. And, Joe, I couldn't be more proud of our homebred Nitrogen, especially because she's 2 photos away from being perfect this year. So, it was an exciting day. It was a little disappointing in the sense that if you told me, hey, you're going to be ahead of Torpedo Anna at the end of the race, I would have said we would be standing in the winner's circle. But I'm super proud of Nitrogen and looking forward to her next race.
Yeah, I mean, as you should be. And to me, I think that as long as Nitrogen runs decent in the distaff, she's going to be the champion. Like, I understand that, technically she only has the one grade one on her resume, but I think if you dig like one level below that, you see that she was second by a nose in the Belmont Oaks. She was second by a head against older fillies in the Spinster. To me, I don't know, I'm biased, but I don't think that there's another resume that stacks up to that. Obviously, Good Cheer had a great first 4 or 5 months out of the year, but where is she at? And unless she pops up and wins the distaff, I don't think that you can make a realistic case. So obviously, I would love to see Nitrogen win the distaff and leave no doubt. But to me, if she runs even decent in that race, she's going to be the champion and a deserving champion. She's had a remarkable year on multiple surfaces. So yeah, obviously would have been great to get the head down to win. But another strong effort. Hat tip to Jin Jin, who really loves that track.
She does
at Keeneland. And so, yeah, no shame in running second that day. I'm surprised you didn't mention Ted Noffey. That was another extremely impressive performance in the Breeders Futurity. I don't know what was going on with the betting in that race, but blackout time was 3-2.
Yeah,
it was 3-2.
Right.
The horse was 10-1 morning line. You want to say, okay, that was a little high. The horse was 3-2.
Yeah.
Kept getting bet and ran second. So I guess in one sense the money was right, but I was stunned, and because I didn't use that horse in any of the multis, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is going to be a they knew situation. Knock out all of my tickets, but Ted Noffey was just a little too good, and to me is clearly the top 3-year-old going into the juvenile. I mean, I don't know if Brant is going or whatever Bob Baffert horse is going to end up out there, but to me, Ted Noffey looks like the kind of horse who's going to be like 6-5, 7-5 in the juvenile. He's just been incredible so far. One other result I wanted to mention, and to me it was one of the most fitting results of the day. For several reasons, was Rhetorical winning the Coolmore Turf Mile. Yeah. Because first of all, I love New York breds, that, and he had been one of these horses that was just crushing it in New York bred company. And I was just every one of his races. Like, when are they going to take on the big boys with this horse? And they did it on Saturday in the Coolmore Turf Mile. It was a stacked field, great ride by Irad Ortiz, another son of Not This Time. John mentioned the meteoric success of him just every single weekend. He also had Schwarzenegger, who won the Indian Summer Stakes. But I thought it was also really cool that it was Will Walden's first Grade 1 win as a trainer. And it was on Stable Recovery Day. Right. There was the big tribute to Stable Recovery. And if you'll remember my conversation with Frank Taylor on this show on Breakaway, actually, about the Stable Recovery program and how it helps people struggling with addiction and trains them with horses, and most importantly does job placement coming out of the program and the success that they've had in turning people's lives around. It's one of the most remarkable stories in racing and one of the most worthy causes to get behind. So they did all the tributes all day to that. And then Will Walden, who had personally struggled with drug and alcohol addiction, he connected with Frank Taylor, and Taylor bought 10 horses for him. And that kind of like helped Will Walden along in his training career. And it was a great interview with Andy Biancone. If you want to go check it out after the race, where she talked to him about like what it meant to win his first Grade 1, especially on a day like that. And I just thought it was very fitting. And, horses are so therapeutic. Yeah. And I'm just so glad that there are programs, like that, and like the Wallkill, working with the inmates that are able to harness that therapeutic nature and power of horses and, inject that into people's lives who are struggling in one way or another, and to be able to lift them up and get them out of the darkness and out of the fog. And I just thought that was a very fitting result. First of all, for a horse that I always thought could compete at that level, but also for the human connections behind him and kind of what that meant and that full circle moment. So that was the other one, John, that really stuck out to me in terms of the most significant results of the weekend.
No, I think that's very fitting. And it was almost like Disney-esque, the fact that Will Walden won on that day. If you had told me, 2 days before the race that this was going to happen, I'd be like, that's fiction. There's no way that, but the stars aligned and the horse, got up and got to the finish line first. And it's just a wonderful story overall. And, we look, the Taylors are obviously they're sponsors of the show, but more importantly, they're like family to me. They're just really good people. And it's nice to see that Frank was able to, visualize that that program, get the funding for it, put it together, and now the graduates are basically succeeding in life. And we talk about rehabbing horses all the time. How about the fact that basically these individuals who go through stable recovery are getting a new lease on life and getting a chance to learn a skill? You talked about the importance of horses and their therapeutic abilities. And on top of that, the people who go through the program are being placed with the best farms in Kentucky. And Will Walden's kind of an outlier that he went on to become a trainer as opposed to going to work for a big farm. But you look at the graduates and where they go, and it's not just they're all going to a TaylorMade. They're going to farms throughout the industry and the top farms, which shows you just the skill level that these individuals are getting at. I know we're going kind of off tangent on this, but you're right. It's a big enough story to talk about in a weekend of 11 win in your ins. This is probably the most important story that takeaway for me.